So today we are delighted to be joined by Dr. Ronnie Watt, a ceramic artist, scholar, and one of South Africa's leading voices on ceramic art history and theory. Dr. Watt holds a PhD in art history and has spent many years researching, writing, and teaching in the field of ceramics, with a particular focus on how ceramic work is documented, interpreted, and situated within broader art historical narratives. In this clay conversation, Dr. Watt will be speaking to a topic that is both timely and deeply relevant to our members, the documentation of South African ceramics and the roles that artists, potters, and collectors play in shaping our ceramic history. His work challenges us to think beyond visibility and marketing and instead consider documentation as an act of cultural stewardship, something that determines how our work is understood, valued, and remembered into the future. We are very grateful to Dr. Watt for sharing his insights with our Ceramics Western Cape community, and we're looking forward to a thoughtful and engaging conversation. Dr. Watt, welcome, and thank you for joining us this very early morning for you.
Very early morning. Next time we have this conversation, we're going to do it reverse times, which means you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
We're all extremely grateful.
Okay. Good.
And hopefully we'll have lots of engagement at the end with this audience.
Yep.
In the
I hope so as well.
Yeah. So Ronnie, you argue that South African ceramic art history is seriously hampered by a lack of authoritative documentation. Could you explain what you mean by that and why this is particularly acute, especially for 20th and 21st century ceramics?
Okay, so if some of the language is academic, then during question time, I can try and simplify my answer, so please bear with me. It's not only important for you to understand what I'm going to talk about, it's part of this is already part of my ongoing present study. I'm doing a second doctorate at the University of Pretoria in Visual Arts, where we're going to deal with object biographies, and without data, without documentation, to look at a ceramic work and create an object biography, if you have no supporting information base, it's thumbsuck. And that is my problem with South African ceramics. So it's not that we have a gap in our knowledge, because we all know a lot about South African studio pottery and ceramic art, 20th and 21st century. There's a problem with the discipline in how we are preserving and creating the knowledge. So when we have, if I say that we lack an authoritative documentation, it means that I'm not only referring to catalogs or anecdotal accounts. What we need are verified artist chronologies, secured dated works. Do we know exactly when they were dated, how they were created? This information does not exist most of the time in museum acquisition records or workshop archives or correspondence or teaching syllabuses. So without this kind of information, the background information, then our knowledge of South African ceramics becomes descriptive, not analytical. And we cannot test any knowledge about influences or innovation or significance. So compared with fine art, when it comes to South African ceramics, we don't have sustained museum research programs to that. There are no dedicated academic posts dedicated to ceramic art history. There are no long-term archival strategies. Museums, and there are quite a few, and I'm not going to name them, they have archives, but those archives are locked up. There's no access to them. They are forgotten. They sit in just disintegrate in drawers and cabinets. Now, and because of that, our knowledge about South African ceramics it's dispersed, it's fragile, and it's often privately held. And we rely on memory and oral testimony. So we reconstruct the histories from artists' recollections or collectors' memories or workshop lore. Now, these all have value, but they can pass away. So it makes it very difficult in South African ceramic art history to distinguish between promotion or awareness and scholarship. Now, strangely enough, at this time, at this point in time, South African ceramics should be best documented, but in the cases, it is the least securely historicized. So we don't have, by comparison with fine arts, the same kind of authoritative documentation about South African ceramics. So, and at the same time, this pushes back on recognizing ceramic art and even studio pottery as art. It keeps on pushing it back into the field of craft. Now, then we also have this problem that with the appearance of the digital world, websites disappear, and specifically social media. So nobody bothers about creating and maintaining their websites.
We'll explore. I think we'll explore that maybe later on in the conversation in more
great.
detail.
But synoptically, so websites no longer exist. Digital images, they lack their metadata, and emails and documents are not archived. It's all gone. So the result here, and this is very important, is that our ceramic art history becomes selective. We are concentrating on a few well-documented figures in the ceramic world. It becomes anachronistic, and that meaning that we are reading history back instead of capturing history as it is. And it's not because the ceramic works are insignificant, but the significance has not yet been adequately secured, documented, shared in our ceramic art historical record. That in a nutshell. It's a mouthful.
Thank you. So are there like a specific example that comes to mind where you know an important work existed that you were looking at, but you couldn't write about it due to the fact of this lack of information?
Yes. I'm going to use an example. Now, we all know that Cees Bosch went to London to study fine art. Right in the early years of his study at the School of Art in London, he opted out to study studio pottery. But we have evidence that even before going to London, he was already engaging with pottery. And that was while he was teaching at the Discovery School for disabled students. That's in Kimberley. We don't know where he learned the technique of pottery, in which workshop, in which studio, who taught him. And so and there's no information. We have evidence that he did it. There's a bowl in existence dated to the year prior to him going to study fine art in London. But we know that he did it before he went. And that is frustrating for ceramic art historian, because that is a little known part of the history and the legacy of Cees Bosch. But there is nothing to back it up except for one very small bowl that bears his signature and a date. One example.
Thank you. So you make a strong case that documentation is not an administrative bureaucracy, but it's really an act of cultural stewardship. Can you unpack that idea a little for us?
It's not only a necessity, but it's an ethical and also a cultural responsibility. And I'm talking here to both studio potters, ceramic artists, and collectors, including when it comes to collectors, not only for personal collections, but also for museums or public collections. So it's my. What we have to remember is that ceramic works are materially vulnerable and they're context dependent. Ceramic works circulate between a studio and exhibition for domestic use, for museum storage, and they are quite often unsigned. We don't know where they fit into an edition, and they're technically complex. All of this, the glaze, the firing method, the function or the intended function that carries meaning, and it's invisible without some kind of explanation. So if we document a ceramic work, again, I'm talking both to ceramic artists and studio potters and collectors, when we document it, we anchor it in time and in intention and in discourse. So that means we're caring not just for the objects, but we're caring for the knowledge of and about the object. We are preserving knowledge frameworks. And we take on a responsibility for future collectors and viewers they will encounter this without the maker being present to explain or to contextualize. Now, when we document, we give it authenticity. And that is so important. We cannot always assume that people will know who made it and why they made it, where they made it, and for what purpose. So we make it authentic. Because ceramic works also frequently, it changes hands. It's gifted, it's traded, it gets put in a museum collection. By documenting it, we protect against historical erasure. And it sustains, this is important again, it sustains market confidence in the works of any potter and any collector. When we have documents, it becomes legible within a narrative. We can position it. We know where it fits in. We can refer to it in ceramic art history. It can be exhibited. It can be published. And it gains symbolic and scholarly value. Next question, please. I can ramble on forever.
I can feel the passion through the screen, yes.
Yeah.
So for studio potters and ceramic artists, what kinds of technical and contextual data are most important to document?
The most basic data, dates, technical data, exhibition histories, statements of intent. Those are the pillars of technical data. Now, if we have that, we can map the stylistic development of the opus of the studio potter and ceramic artist. We can identify schools and lineages or interruption of references. We can situate the works within a broader, this is important, social or political or aesthetic context. If we don't have documentation, works become anecdotal.
Which leads nicely to the next area I would like to explore is how documentation shapes interpretation and the legacy of an artist. So do you want to discuss a bit about that, how the documentation protects against misinterpretation? Yes. And maybe you have some examples from history where, how can I say, incorrect narratives have been created around certain artworks.
or movements. Okay, that is an important one, and I'll get to that in a moment. So let me first say, so if you have a documentation of a work, it's no longer anonymous, it can't be misinterpreted, it can't be wrongly contextualized. Here's an important concept. So your work, whether you make it or collect it, becomes a meaning-bearing artifact. Not an object, not a thing. It becomes a subject. It has a story to tell. At the same time, you become, with documentation, you become historically illegible. So in the future, scholars and collectors and even the potters and the ceramic artists can understand what that work was responding to. What was it resisting, pushing away? What made it possible? What gave it a right to existence? What was the second question you asked? Can I?
Yes. Yes. Now, I wanted to know if you've come across, or in the art history world, if there are examples of where, upon later facts, maybe, you realize that something has been so mythologized that it's totally a different story from what the artist intended.
I think I've flogged this horse to death and again. My pet hate Anglo-Oriental tradition of studio pottery and assigning our early studio pottery to Anglo-Oriental influence. There is no such thing. Bernard Leach, big daddy of the Anglo-Oriental tradition, said, do your own thing. He never said, do it. Yeah, don't do it like I do it. And that became such an easy label to stick onto all the works in that era. And what we are ignoring is that, yes, there was an influence, but it was more philosophical. It was the way of life associated with the pottery being promoted in England and America and Australia at that time via Leach and Hamada in Japan. But there were so many other influences. The lifestyle or the work style that it promoted, the artist's hand in everything, the potter's hand in everything, that was so acceptable for South Africans, and they took it on. But the stylistic influences, we lived far away from Europe and North America and the Australasia and the Far East, where these cultures were already so embedded in the pottery traditions. So that first group of potters absorbed all of these influences. And at the same time, they were localized in South Africa. They had so much inspiration from their own surroundings. So to just blandly dismiss it, oh, Anglo-Oriental. No, you're doing those pioneering potters, and I'm talking first, second, third generation, you're doing them an injustice. You are not giving them the credit for being able to absorb and interpret and represent.
Thanks. So could that also extend to how poor documentation affects, like, whether work is bundled as like craft or contemporary art as well?
Yes,
I mean,
it's so easy to dismiss something by giving it a label. And we love giving stuff labels. Stop it. You have to, don't judge works by a style. Within a style, there are events that disrupt a style. Potters and ceramic artists invigorate whatever they are doing with. There's nothing standard. There's nothing uniform. it would be boring. Then we might as well rather go buy Noritake porcelain plates and live with that forever. So, Rosh, next question. Sorry, my mind is running away with myself right now.
No, it's brilliant, and I realize it's early in the morning for you. So, so the thoughts, morning is normally when your thoughts come from all angles.
Yeah, they do so.
Yeah. So you're quite critical of Instagram style presentation as a form of documentation. So you alluded to this in your introduction. So what are some of the dangers of relying on social media as an artist's primary record?
Sorry, repeat, Rosh.
So I was saying, what are the dangers of relying purely on social media or Instagram as an artist's primary record?
Okay, this is another horse that I'm flogging to death, I think, and it just doesn't want to die. Instagram or social media, it's a pretty picture of a pretty pot. It's brief. It's got a generic caption quite often. It represents a profound impoverishment of documentation. It's seductive. It's socially efficient. But it's completely inadequate for collectors or scholars, and even for the studio potters and ceramic artists themselves. So, social media, it creates the illusion of permanence, but it's extremely impermanent. So we have an object is being treated as a visual motif rather than a material work. So with social media, the algorithms are not kind. They're quickly buried in timelines. So the captions are not indexed. They're not archived. You can't reliably retrieve data from social media. And then you have a problem. Accounts get deleted or they get banned or they get lost when the social media platforms close or decline or corrupt. And then all we have at the end of the day is a low resolution image with no context. And we call this digital erosion. So if we only rely on social media as a primary public record, then you as the studio potter and ceramic artist, you're giving control and responsibility, archival, to a commercial platform with no scholarly mandate. These are not scholars. These are techies. So you are relinquishing the control over how your work will be understood or misunderstood in the future. As academics, we cannot work with fragments and vibes. It prevents a comparative analysis across time and across different oeuvres. We can't judge technical evolution or how problems were solved. And so we have to go back and do the work again. We have to do your work, which is wrong. So we don't have time to do all of that. So it becomes speculative, and it weakens the credibility of ceramic art history if we have to rely on social media. No.
Yeah. So let's kind of make it practical for the attendees and the members. We'll probably summarize this in one of our newsletters as a kind of guideline for them. So how do you recommend we establish this kind of record in the studio? Is it the form of a studio diary, electronic, like practically, can you think of how we would implement this?
Okay, so studio potters, ceramic artists, there should be some record of your clay bodies and your sources, your glaze recipes, the variations of that, the firing methods, what was the kiln, what was the atmosphere, temperature curves, how did you form it, the techniques and the tool marks, This is basic information that is unique, but shared, but also unique or distinctive to anyone. So, and that gives us, that is the basic information, which at some stage or other should be shared. Now, you can share that, and you don't have to give your secrets away, because all potters and ceramic artists have got secrets. Always fun. But either in a personal website or notes that are archived that a scholar or a collector in the future can access, can refer to. It should be available somewhere. But it's difficult for anyone now to go back and say 20 years ago, A, B, C, D, E, and so on. Start now. If you haven't done it already, start now. Keep the documents. And kiln records are fascinating. If we know it, at what cone did you fire? What did you fire? Wood, gas, electric. All of that tells us more about the work, but at the same time, it tells us about your studio practice. Serious collectors are not only interested in the pots, they're interested in how did that pot come about. Not just the making, but also the intent. Make notes. If there was a particular idea that steered you into a certain way of doing it for a purpose and purpose, what was it? And I'm not. What is frustrating is if I read an artist statement saying, I like playing with clay, and that led to me becoming a studio potter. No, that's insignificant. All of us as kids played with clay. And not all of us became potters or ceramic artists. There should be substance to your thought that make it valid and valuable for the future. If it's not there, you are writing yourself out of ceramic art history. You become another anonymous potter or ceramic artist.
That's such an important thing you just stated there, because often our works being durable, kind of fairly durable, will outlive us, and we, as you say, we could be erased or eroded out of history, but yet our pots exist or our products exist. Yeah. So you mentioned the types of information we should document in our personal archives as well. So also when a work leaves your studio, either through a sale, through an exhibition or whatever, should it be accompanied by certain information as well?
Yes, even the minimum of information. I want to know. And again, you don't have to give your secrets away. So how was it created? Was it thrown on a wheel? Was it slabbed? Was it handled? Is it part of a specific opus within your oeuvre? In other words, does it have a little mini family within your bigger family of works? A signed authenticity statement. And I don't mean that for every mug and saucer that you sell. These are your signature works. If it's a signature work, it has to have some supportive kind of documentation for the collector, for the buyer, the collector, the gallerist who's going to inherit it when the collector's kids don't want it anymore, for the future. So at least we have some kind of documentation. So it's an object data sheet. Again, please, I'm talking about signature works. Object data sheet, a signed authenticity statement, care and conservation notes if you want to, series context. And you don't have to write a Bible to accompany every work. It's a short fact sheet, but it authenticates not only the work, but where it is positioned in the potter and the ceramic artist's oeuvre. I cannot emphasize this enough. That becomes a reliable, accurate, even if incomplete, benefit for ceramic art history.
Thank you. In fact, in the article you sent me, you proposed a powerful thought experiment. If your studio burnt down tomorrow, what would survive? And I think, and I think that goes to the heart of why we do this. So, in kind of closing, and you're welcome to expand on any other related topics to this. If there was a shift, one shift in mindset that you would like South African ceramic artists and collectors to adopt regarding documentation or anything related to that, what would it be, or what are your final words?
This is the classic answer when I ask anyone. So, do you have notes about this? And they say, sorry, I'm so busy making pots that I haven't got time to write about it. And that saddens me. So, documenting your work is not a burden, it's a responsibility. And it is a service to the buyer, the collector, the gallerist, the museum curators. It's a service to ceramic art history, a service to the future. Don't just think about now and I haven't got time because I've got another damn pot to throw. Please contextualize what you're doing. It's important. You are, and I say it again and again, you are writing yourself out of history if you don't make a claim or a statement for your work.
Thank you. That's a very powerful closing. And yeah, well, while on the one hand, it makes you kind of confront your mortality in a way, it also speaks to kind of growing our what we do into the future as an academic discipline that we don't think about in the here and now. I mean, we've those of us who studied art at any point in our lives, and we talk about the Greeks and the Romans and shards and whatever that are found. I mean, that's our work in the future.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with no name attached to it, no context to it, which means that future ceramic art historians and collectors, again, collectors, gallerists, museum curators, we are going to invent you if there is no record of who you actually are. We are going to create a persona around a pot, whether it is accurate or not. So, are you going to state who you want to be or who you are, or do you want me to invent you? Because I can do that. Don't let me do that.
Thank you so
kind.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not being kind and generous and saying, great, just carry on what you're doing. So, okay, I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm sorry if I come across as pedantic. I'm not doing it for my sake. I'm doing it for your sake. I cannot impress enough the importance of documentation. Do it so that you are not misrepresented now or in the future. I'm not asking that you make my life easier. I'm asking that you give yourself a presence now and in the future, beyond your own life. Your pots have got a life that will endure for decades or centuries. So,
Thank you. With those very inspiring and powerful words, thank you once again. We appreciate your time.